Hey guys, it's Sheri Vegas and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, hello. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can create this amazingly stunning, beautiful resin 3D flower bowl. To get started, you're just going to need a few different items. Today I'm using the epoxy glass resin from Barnes. The reason why I'm using this one today is because it's a medium viscosity resin and it's a casting resin. So it's going to work really well for this technique because I am going to be doing that 3D bloom in my resin. So having a resin that's a little bit thicker, like a casting resin that's a little bit thicker, is going to help me to achieve that effect. Then I'm just going to be using a silicone mold. So this one is from Shattered Shapes and I'll add the link down below so you can go and find her. She makes all of her molds herself in Western Australia and they're really cool and unique and they're really sturdy because they're made with really good silicone and nice shine. So this one is, I think, the medium plate mold and it's got a really cool like rippled edge to it, but she has a few different others, or you can use whatever mold that you want to use today. And I'm just going to be using some alcohol inks and some glitter to add my color and my 3D effect.
I'm just starting off with mixing up my casting resin. This is the Barnes Epoxy Cast and it's about a medium viscosity casting resin. So it's a great one to use if you are going to be creating any of the 3D flower effects in your resin. And I'm just mixing up about 600 mils. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So I've got 400 mils and then another 200 mils to make 600 in total. I'm going to give that a really good mix up. Make sure both parts are combined. And then I'm going to be pouring that out into my silicone mold. I'm just going to be adding a few different glitters in together. So I've just got a little bit of an old gold glitter that I had laying around, and then some of this glitter glass that I got from Just Resin. So I'm going to be using two different colors today. One's a soft pink and one's a soft gold. And I'm going to be mixing that all together with just a tiny little bit of resin, and this is going to create the center of my flower. Because my Shattered Shapes mold is quite large, I am going to be using up the majority of my resin just to fill my mold. So I've got 600 mils here and I'm going to probably be using about 550 just to fill this mold up. And then I'm going to be putting the other 50 mils aside so that way I can add some color into that and create my 3D petals. I'm just using a heat gun to pop any bubbles that I might have in this resin before I start working on my next part. With the extra resin, I'm just going to be adding that into a cup and then adding some color. I'm using white today, but you can use whatever color pigment you want to use. I just want white petals for this effect. So I'm just adding that in. This is titanium white from Just Resin, and I'm giving that a good mix, and then I'm going to be putting that to one side and setting my timer. Because this is casting resin, it's going to remain fluid for quite a while, a lot longer than your typical art resins that set a lot faster. So make sure you set a timer. Now this timing can change depending on the type of resin you're using and also the temperature of the room. Because it's quite cold here, it does take a little bit longer for this resin to set. Then I'm just transferring my white resin into a cup once that timer's out. I need the resin to be thick so that way it will hold the shape of my petals better. If I do this too soon and the resin is too fluid, you'll find that it will just all bleed out and you'll lose any shape that you have. I'm also adding some alcohol ink and I'm going to be just swirling that around with a skewer, and this is just to add a bit of color into my petals. I've just got a small paper cup that I'm pinching and then pouring out my resin into a petal shape. Now some people like to put their resin in little piping bags. If you find that's easier, then definitely do that. You just need to do whatever you find is easy, and don't worry too much if the petals aren't perfectly identical, because they will expand out and spread and you won't have such a clear defined shape. And then I'm also just going over the top with some bigger petals as well. I've also placed down, which I did forget to film, just the gold glitter into the center of my flower. Now I'm just using a heat gun to help it expand out slightly. You want to do less is more with your heat gun because you've still got quite a lot of time for this to expand out and you don't want to overwork your petals. With a skewer, I am dragging in some of the petals, and then I'm also going to be dragging out some of the petals just to create a really cool flower effect. Now you don't have to do this, but I just like it for this particular design. With a pink alcohol ink, this one is called Orchid. I'm going to be just going around the edge of where I've placed the purple alcohol ink, just adding quite a few drops on top of that white resin. And then I'm just getting my skewer and I'm going down the center of where each petal connect, and I'm just dragging that out to the outer edge, and then I'm also going through the middle of each petal, pulling that skewer through to create my pattern.
So because it has just become winter here and the weather has suddenly gotten really cold, my timing for my resin is really off because I keep having in my head that it's like summer timing and where the resin sets faster. So I made this piece in the morning and thought it would be ready to come out at night, and then it wasn't, and so then I was like, oh well, I've got to go to bed, so I've got to come back the next day and see. When I came back the next day, it had gotten too hard. I should have poured it in the afternoon so that way in the morning it'd be ready to come out. So obviously, because I had to go to sleep eventually, it set during the night when I was asleep, and it's really pretty, very beautiful. So obviously cannot shape it once it's gotten to this hardness. I need to be able to get it before it fully sets. So I had to start again. And the next one I did turned out amazing. And I did change one thing. So I've kept all the colors the same, except I've swapped out my titanium white because I didn't like how much it sunk in this one. Because I want to still have that like 3D flower effect. I don't want the white to sink to the bottom of my mold too much and create this sort of like pooling at the bottom. So I switched that out, and all I did was I switched in for a white alcohol ink because it's a lot lighter than a titanium white. But it does look so beautiful, but unfortunately it's gone into that too hard a stage. So I'm going to just keep redoing all the steps that I did at the start. I'm just going to switch out that titanium white, and I'm going to be able to catch this when it's at that perfect setting time.
So you want your resin to have cured, but to still be flexible. You don't want it to be fully hardened yet. So it's able to be touched and molded, and it's not in a gel or still in its liquid form, but it's still not rock hard where you can't shape it at all. And honestly, I'm kind of glad the first one didn't work out, because this one I think is just way prettier because I've changed up that white and gone with a white alcohol ink instead of that titanium white, because it hasn't just sunk straight to the bottom. I'm just using a metal bowl to shape my resin. I'm just placing that on the inside and pushing down until I'm happy with the shape.
I redid the pour, I started again, and I've set it into this bowl. Now what I would recommend, I only had this metal bowl on hand for this size. I would recommend personally using plastic because it's got more flex and you can push it out. This took a little bit of effort for me to get out. I did have to put some warm water over it, some dishwashing liquid, and sort of get it out that way, just because I pushed it in so hard into the bowl to create that shape that it got a little bit stuck when it did set. But I have managed to get it off just with a little bit of warm water, dishwashing liquid, and it managed to slide straight off, and it came out perfect. I also way prefer this 3D flower effect to that because I don't have a lot of pooling like I do in this one. This one you can see that white is really pooling, gathering, and I'm losing a lot of that detail. And this one has turned out absolutely perfect. I have gotten the most beautiful 3D flower bowl, and even the behind is stunning as well. Like I could have used this side if I wanted to, but we've gone with this side. So all I need to do now that I've got my bowl and it's fully set, it's nice and hard, I just want to go around and add a little bit of gold to the edges and finish it off that way. I'm really happy with how this piece turned out. So even though a few errors at the start, just with letting it set too much and using the wrong kind of white, I've ended up changing that out and getting a really beautiful bowl in the end.
To finish off my piece, I'm just going to be adding a gold edge to it. Now this is a completely optional step, you don't have to do it, but I thought it would really finish the piece off and tie the gold center into it. So I'm just sanding back the edge of my resin, one, to move any sharpness from it so I don't cut myself, and two, because if the resin is a little bit textured, it's going to be a lot easier for my gold pen to grip to it. If I leave the resin really shiny and glossy, the pen's got nothing really to grip to, and you're going to find that you're going to need to do quite a lot of layers. So I generally go around once and do a really thin layer, and then I go back in with my pen once that thin layer has set, and this will give me a really strong and bold gold. I am using the 24 karat gold from Cryon, but you can also use, whatever other pens that you like, those Picasso pens, or you can go for silvers or rose golds, it's up to you, but I just really like this gold pen.
Thank you guys so much for watching this resin tutorial. If you want to find more resin tutorials, I've got a full playlist that I will link somewhere. Definitely go and check that out if you are new to resin. I've got a full beginner's guide. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. It really helps me out and it lets me create more videos for you guys to watch. And if you're new to my channel, please do subscribe, as I post new videos every single Wednesday now, or maybe Tuesday or Thursday, depending on where you are in the world. But yeah, I post new videos every single week, and I specialize in alcohol inks, resin, Jessamites acrylic resins, and candle making. And I really enjoy doing this YouTube channel, so I just want to thank you guys for all your support throughout the years. It's been like nearly 4 years since I started this, so just a big shout out, thank you. Don't forget to check out my resin playlist as well.